Welcome to Movies Recapped. Step into the hilarious world of Hall Pass, 2011. Join Rick and Fred as their lives are turned upside down when they're granted a week off from marriage. Get ready for a wild ride of laughter, temptation, and unexpected encounters. Experience the comedic chaos as they navigate their Hall Pass with friends by their side. Don't miss out on this uproarious adventure. Rick, played by Owen Wilson, and Fred, played by Jason Sudeikis, have been best friends for a long time, just like their wives Maggie, played by Jenna Fischer, and Grace, played by Christina Applegate. However, they have all reached a point in their marriages where they are unhappy with their sex lives and yearn for the excitement of their single days. Sensing their husband's frustrations, Maggie and Grace come up with an unconventional idea. They grant Rick and Fred a hall pass, a week-long break from marriage during which they can engage in intimate encounters with other women. Initially hesitant, Rick and Fred eventually agree to this unusual proposition and set out to explore their newfound freedom with the help of their friends Gary, played by Stephen Merchant, Flats, played by J.B. Smoove, and Hoghead, played by Larry Joe Campbell. With their wives and children away, Fred and Rick decide to check into a motel to kick off their hall pass week. On the first day, they plan to hit the local bar but end up getting too tired and opt to stay at the hotel instead. On the second day, they indulge in pot brownies and decide to play a round of golf. However, their heightened state leads to a series of mishaps and chaos on the golf course. As day 3 arrives, they visit Hooters with their buddies, hoping to impress the women there. Unfortunately, their attempts fall flat, prompting them to resort to excessive drinking in order to loosen up. This, however, lands them in a drunken altercation with other patrons. The following day, they nurse their hangovers at the hotel, feeling the consequences of their wild night. On the 5th day, Rick finds himself at a local coffee shop where he flirts with a charming waitress named Leigh, played by Nicky Whelan. This draws the ire of her co-worker Brent, who insults Rick. Rick's witty response impresses Leigh, and she suggests that they might run into each other at the gym they both attend. Later, they do meet at the gym, and Leigh invites Rick for a drink after their workout. However, Rick's plans take an unexpected turn when he falls asleep in the sauna, resulting in an uncomfortable encounter with 2 naked men who assist him in leaving. Meanwhile, Grace and Jerry, an athlete she meets, grow closer, while Maggie finds herself drawn to Jerry's coach. Day 6 finds Rick and Fred at a bar called Enter the Dragon, accompanied by their friend Coakley, played by Jenkins. It's there that Rick encounters Paige, played by Alexandra Daddario, his children's babysitter who has just turned 21 and is out with her aunt. Paige develops a strong attraction to Rick, but he chooses to dance with Leigh instead, leaving Paige's aunt to take an interest in Fred. Rick heads to Coakley's party, while Fred takes the aunt back to their motel room. However, the encounter takes an unexpected turn when the aunt becomes ill, and Fred decides to send her home before anything happens. Later that night, Paige's aunt mistakenly enters Fred's room, assuming he is Rick, and proceeds to seduce him. Fred pretends to engage in oral sex until their encounter is interrupted by Rick. Meanwhile, Maggie resists the advances of Jerry's coach, while Grace engages in a sexual encounter with Jerry, but makes it clear it will be a one-time occurrence. On her way back home, Grace is overwhelmed by guilt for cheating on Fred and ends up getting into a car accident. At Coakley's house, Rick meets Leigh again, who proposes a one-time fling. Despite his initial temptation, Rick ultimately turns her down, unable to betray his commitment to Maggie. As Rick is leaving after hearing about Grace's accident, he encounters Brent, the disgruntled DJ who believes Rick slept with Leigh. After defusing the situation, Rick heads back to the hotel, where he discovers Paige, who mistakenly believes Rick slept with her aunt. They enter the room and find Fred engaging in a sexual encounter with Paige's aunt. Upon learning of Grace's accident, Fred attempts to rush to the hospital but finds Brent vandalizing Rick's car. Upon seeing Paige's aunt, who happens to be Brent's mother, at the hotel, Brent wrongly assumes Rick has been intimate with her and tries to attack him. However, Brent runs out of bullets and is apprehended by Paige and his mother. Rick and Fred quickly escape in Fred's car, with Brent and the police in hot pursuit. At the hospital, Brent is arrested for his assault, and Fred learns that Grace has only suffered a broken nose. Rick returns home and finds Maggie, where he confesses that he didn't use the hall pass and that she is the only woman he has ever been with. Touched by his sincerity, Maggie reveals that she, too, refrained from using her hall pass, and they reconcile, reigniting their passion after months of a dormant sex life. Fred and Grace also reconcile and make the decision to keep their extramarital encounters a secret from each other. However, Fred eventually confesses to his dalliance with Paige's aunt when Grace asks him to take her to see Kathy Griffin.